Genothi Seutan, love, peace, blessing, health, happiness, healing, all manner of abundance and well-being to you and your family. And wanted to talk about angels, and especially because with our understanding, and I think everybody can identify with needing some help, needing some assistance. And it's really, really interesting. If you read the Bible, in the Bible, while they were sometimes afraid, had a little bit of fear when they had an angelic confrontation, it still seemed like something that they understood what it was. And to understand what it is, you have to have an awareness of it. You have to know that that's something that happens. And especially in the New Testament, it just seemed like to them, especially when the believers encountered angels, like it really wasn't a surprise, like it was something that was normal. And it's something that they just really identified with. Of course, because the angels, maybe they radiated as light beings or whatever. They just knew that they were higher beings, and of course, they had a little bit of fear. So that may mean that maybe they had experience with, some type of higher being that was dangerous, and so they, were maybe. Just cautious of that. But most of the time it was because, at least it seems, it was because, they just felt inferior. And it's very, very powerful for us to be able to bring our mindset to a place where there is no such thing as superior or inferior. We're all one, and it's the clear teaching of all faiths, all practices, and quantum physics. Everything that we are experiencing today in the realm of science as applied to biology, quantum physics, epigenetics, is just pointing to the fact of, we truly are all one. We share a lot more than we realize. And when we come to the topic of angels, I think a really, really fantastic example is one of Dr. Joe Dispenza's testimonies in one of his meetings. He just opened his eyes and looked and saw these, like almost 20-foot tall beings, standing, like around their conference room. And, he saw them, and he was just kind of like aware of them, and he didn't say anything. And as the story progresses, he ended up talking to them, and the angels actually said to him, it's very difficult for us to lower our frequency down to the point where, you can recognize us. And I think that's an amazing key. Back in the Bible, even though they had a lot of negative things that were happening around them, around the biblical narrative, as a whole, there were still pockets of places that were living the same way that they lived from the beginning of time, the beginning of creation. So there were still, nations that were peaceful. There were still islands. There were still places, up in the Himalayas, places that were far away from the city, where people were just living in peace, living the way they always did from the beginning. And so with the collective consciousness, you didn't have this constant, well, especially you didn't have a global wartime mentality. I believe that's what really started to affect our global consciousness. And, the shedding of blood is a terrible thing. No matter what, religion tries to say about it, it has no purpose and it has no value, and it's always negative. It doesn't save anybody. And with that, and us progressing forward in that wartime mentality and all of the global death and destruction, It has brought the human the human vibration, as an average, as a collective consciousness, lower and lower and lower and lower, to now where we only have, a few select people. Well, they're not select people, just a few people who, they just have the maybe environment, or they have the situation. Most of all, they just make the choice to raise their own consciousness. Like in the Dr. Joe Dispenza meeting, they raise their consciousness up high enough that they can make that connection. And so what happens is that angels and angelic beings haven't gone anywhere. It's just that we've kind of, dropped to such a low vibration. I can't say the majority, but, a lot of the percentage of human consciousness right now is living in a constant state of fight or flight, a constant state of survival. And a lot of it isn't even real. A lot of it isn't real because, people are, working in an office, and, the people around them have just created a feeling of fight or flight, stress, that is the equivalent of running from, a predator. But there really is no predator. It's just a mental game. It's just a mental illusion that causes us to feel that way, but yet our feelings and our body are producing the same type of chemistry. And what happens is that over time, it just lowers our vibration more and more and more and more, until it comes to the place where, people can't even stand themselves. But it's not you. It's not even yourself. It's what the surroundings around you have turned you into. And that's when we start to feel abandoned, when we start to feel alone, because we're not vibrating at a frequency where we can make contact, or we're vibrating at a frequency where we're just so sheltering and protecting ourselves from fear of, who's going to say something, who's going to offend us, who's going to hurt us. And it's just a constant lowering of vibration. But the good news is, like the beings that spoke to Dr. Joe Dispenza, it's what they do. They want to communicate with us. They want to help us. They want to assist us in raising our vibration. And so the key for us, when it comes to angels, and when you have practices like when I found what I believe to be the most ancient and not disturbed by governments, and are used by governments to create armies to go off and kill and steal other people's stuff. What I believe has not been harmed by that, and actually speaks against all of that, and speaks against any form of murder and death and destruction, is the Essene practice. And we know that Yeshua, Jesus, without doubt, was an Essene. We find in the Catholic history records that they pointed out that there were that the Essenes were in fact real, and there were two different divisions. And but Yeshua, Jesus, definitely was an Essene. And in the Essene tradition, each morning and evening has a practice of being in communion with different angels. And again, the angels are not the energy. They are just assistants that assist us in connecting to the energy. And in the Essene tree of life, all of the energies are positive. It's love, it's peace, it's joy, it's love, peace, joy. Drawing a blank here because I'm trying to find an emotion. But love, peace, joy, holy work, connection with soil to be able to grow things, air, sun, fire, water, earth. Everything is absolutely positive. Eternal life, life force, Kai, Chi, or prana, and all of the connections, Mother Earth, connection to Yahweh. All of them are positive, and they all do positive influence in our lives. And but it's not the Hollywood version where you just know the angel's name, and it's not magic spells. It's an energetic connection, and the key is for us to feel the energy. Without feeling, or if we're vibrating at a low rate, there just isn't a connection. Because just like on a radio, you can't pick up AM 580 if your radio is tuned to FM 101. It doesn't work that way. And since we've become habitual occupants of the realm of fight or flight, it's very, very rare sometimes in the mainstream species of humanity that it has become today. It's very rare that we feel positive emotions, that we can connect to and hold on to and harness and be able to connect to those positive emotions of the tree of life. So that's what is so important about doing things like the 100 breath blessing. If you just count 100 breaths in and out, and no necessary pattern, sometimes in a little more than other times, sometimes out a little more, but just so you come up with a rhythm that is comfortable for you. And when you focus on just your breath, and you're not focusing on all of the repetitive habitual thoughts that reoccur over and over again, you cease being a being who identifies with thought, that it identifies with the habitual thoughts of the mind, and cease identifying with the mind, which just usually thinks the same thoughts over and over again. And you become the watcher. And instead of just feeling every thought that jumps into your head, or feeling every memory or any trigger, you're just viewing those things. You're viewing those effects. You're watching those emotions. And then when you become the watcher, you become the gatekeeper, and you decide what it is that you want to allow into your sacred space, into your holy of holies. And it creates a practice where you actually can start connecting with the angels. You can start receiving their assistance. You can start knowing them personally, and you can advance to a more effective method and practice and discipline, life discipline, to be able to manifest your own personal authentic self. So love, peace, blessing, all manner of the tree of life to you and your family. Namaste.